I'll never understand why my sister-in-law thought giving our daughter that doll was a good idea. It was old and worn, the paint peeled off in several places, it was just covered in cracks. The worst part was that the paint for its eyes was faded to the point where it was barely even visible. It just looked so lifeless and dead. She had always been a strange woman. She had this obsession with all things occult and macabre that always rubbed me the wrong way. But this? I wasn't even sure how to feel about this. Honestly, my daughter didn't like it at first either. She was scared and didn't even want to touch it. But strangely, once she got a hold of it, she seemed to slowly fall in love with the thing. I told my wife that I didn't think we should let her keep it, but she insisted that if it makes her happy, there was no reason to take it away. I eventually relented. In hindsight, I should have burned the thing the day it arrived. Angel, as she began to call it, became her favorite toy overnight. She always carried it around with her wherever she went. She even tried taking me to school on a few occasions. We said no, of course, as it wasn't appropriate. When we said this, she started to throw a fit. Of course, we didn't relent just because she threw a tantrum, so she had to accept she would be going without her toy. When she got home each night, she ran straight to Angel without a word to either of us. It was like we weren't even there. Things only got worse once I started to hear her talking to it. Okay, look, I know little girls talking to their dolls is normal, but you've got to believe me when I say there was something off about this. Angel wasn't her only doll, so I've seen her have her little tea parties with her toys before, so I know how she sounds when it's just her playing. It's one of those things you have to be a parent to understand. Sometimes you can just tell when something is wrong. It wasn't just that she was talking to her doll either. She had always been a social butterfly in the past. She could make friends with someone as easily as she breathed. I don't think I've ever seen a single person she didn't get along with. So you can imagine my surprise when I got word from her teachers that she wasn't talking to anyone anymore. They told me she had become reclusive and irritable, only ever answering questions with single short word responses, and she kept snapping at people. It was like she had become a completely different person. She even started snubbing me and her mother as well. And what could we do? If we sent her to a room, we'd just be giving her what she wanted. The only thing she ever seemed to want now, to be with her little angel. The final straw came when I went to confront her on her behavior. I tried being soft with her at first. I wasn't going to just punish her and call it a day if there was a chance that something bigger was going on here. But as I tried to coax a response from her, I saw something that crushed me. My daughter looked sick. Her skin was pale and her eyes were sunken. She seemed a lot thinner than she usually did. Her eyes were bloodshot. She seemed lethargic and tired. She almost looked like she was dying. Between her appearance and her lack of energy, it was like she had the life sucked out of her. I don't know how I missed it. I guess the change had been so gradual I didn't notice until it was just too severe to miss. I decided then and there that enough was enough. I took that thing away from her. When I did, it was like she turned feral. She fought, kicked, and scratched at me to try to get her angel back. I tried scolding her, and that didn't work. I just started begging. Soon I had no other choice but to force her to stop. Once I pried her off me, I gave her to my wife and locked that damn thing away. Made sure to stick it in a cabinet where she couldn't reach it and locked it. When we finally got her to calm down, we tried to get her to tell us just what was going on. Just why was she so obsessed with that ugly little doll? And she started crying. She said that Angel had threatened to kill her if she said anything. That she was her only friend and that she was the only one who really loved her. And we did our best to try to nurse her back to health from there. Healthy food, medicine, plenty of rest, all the things that had allowed her to get better when she was sick in the past. We didn't want to believe our eyes when we saw just how sick she was getting. We kept telling ourselves that she would bounce back someday. As long as we kept that thing away from her, surely she would recover. She would beg and plead for us to give Angel back. She even tried to bargain with us, said that if we let her have Angel back for a bit, she would eat more, or that she would be willing to go back to school. We refused. We told the school she was sick anyways. We wouldn't let her out of our sight until she was better. But then she only got sicker. She stopped talking altogether, just lying there shaking like a leaf. We'd rush her straight to the hospital. We should have done that from the start, but we were in denial. The doctors gave us the rundown and explained that she would have to stay overnight for further care and testing. Now, I'm a patient man, but this was about all I could take. First, my daughter starts acting up because of this thing, and now she has to spend the night in the fucking emergency room. I drove straight home, dropped off my wife, grabbed the doll, and drove straight to my in-laws' place. I wasn't sure if I was gonna demand answers from her or just ram the thing down her throat. I wouldn't do either, because when I got there, she was already gone. Well, I couldn't just walk away now, though, so I used the spare key she gave us and headed inside. It occurred to me I'd never actually been inside her home before. The place looked like some kind of Halloween attraction or maybe a witch's hut. Not somewhere I can honestly see myself living. I decided I would do some investigating. I wouldn't forgive myself if I walked away now without trying to find some answers. After searching for about an hour or so, I found myself inside her bedroom. I wouldn't normally enter someone's room without permission, but well, these were extenuating circumstances. I walked in, set the doll down on the bed, and I began my search. I'm not really sure what I expected to find in here. Maybe some book about curses that would contain one for dolls. I didn't buy into that sort of thing, but well, with my daughter's life on the line, I would take what I can get. As I sifted through her things, I eventually came upon a little gadget about the size of my thumb. I couldn't quite make out what it was, so I began to fiddle with it. Eventually I had a switch and a little light turned on.
Okay, so that did something.
Was all I said before I began to hear a faint sound coming from the doll. It sounded like it was whispering at me. I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. I was curious, so I started to slowly walk closer to the little monster. Its faded eyes just stared vacantly at me. It just kinda sat there, unmoving and lifeless.
Did you just...
And there was again, the same faint sound coming from within the doll, right as I began to speak. It was then that the truth dawned on me. I grabbed the little terror and held it up to my ear and began to chant,
Hello? Hello? Test, 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 hello?
And sure enough, the doll echoed me verbatim. I was fuming. It took everything I had not to throw the thing across the room. Just shattered against the wall and grind it into dust. But it was evidence now. I needed it intact. I called the police and gave them the doll. I told them everything. My wife was horrified to find out the truth. She tried calling her sister, but she never answered. Any attempt at contacting her by us or anyone else in the family was answered only with silence. She ran away. When we next went to the hospital, the doctor told us that our daughter was suffering from the effects of drug withdrawal. Of course, the police confirmed the doll seemed to have traces of various powerful, highly addictive substances that could be absorbed through the skin. And every time my daughter touched that thing, she was getting a hit. On the bright side, the doctor said she would be able to recover, although the process would be long and difficult. She might even need rehabilitation therapy. Just the thought of it makes me sick to my stomach. She's a 7-year-old girl and she would need rehab? Still disgusted as I wasn't going to deny her anything she needed to recover. This whole experience was a nightmare, one that would haunt our family for a very long time, maybe forever. And just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, the police told me something that I didn't want to hear. The walkie-talkie that was inside the doll had a very small battery, meaning that with it being constantly on, it wouldn't last for more than a day. On top of that, the drugs that the doll was covered in would have to have been applied often in order for it to stay fresh and effective. This could only mean one thing. My sister-in-law had snuck into our house, went into my daughter's room to replace the battery and give it a fresh coat daily, and all without us even noticing. From the very day she gave us that doll to the day she heard me taking it away over the walkie-talkie.